Okay, we are back. Isn't this amazing how much I have learned? I'm serious. Everybody in the media, whether it's news media or Hollywood, and I think even the music nowadays, has a slant, has a message for people. So why don't we, and not just the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, why not the whole area of Christianity preach the message that Jesus saves? Why don't we preach that? You have so many people storming the Capitol with their own signs and symbols. Why don't we have the symbol of the cross? Why don't we have, like in the issue of the church, the symbol of the symbol of the church, the symbol of the Christus? You know, the little white statue of Christ on the blue background with his hands outstretched. I want you to think about this, guys. Why do we depend on externals to give us fulfillment? I did that for years. And why? Because I was just too darn hard-headed. I was just too darn hard-headed to see. I was depending on externals from Brad and Jim Bob mainly. And Keith. The thing was, Keith kept pointing it to me, like, Jimmy, here. But I was so, I guess, tone deaf spiritually, that I couldn't tell. It was like, here. And a part of it is, I think, during my late teens and early 20s, with exception to going to church to try to keep my first high school sweetheart, I don't think I was very strong in the Christian faith. It took me going through some personal pain where, in 1993, where I felt like my social life with Brad and Jim Bob was struggling. That began once again my pursuit for the things of God and my pursuit for the things of truth. You think about that. And even then, I was still dependent on Brad and Jim Bob. My friend Julie let me right out saying, hey, don't even try to depend on me for externals, because I'll just let you down. There's nothing against her, and I'm not going to go through the details, okay? This is not talking about negative, divisive reactivity, okay? We got plenty of that in this world as it is. What we need, folks, and I'm preaching this here and now, what we need is Jesus. You think about the old 70s songs from the Jesus musical, the Jesus movement, I'll sing a few bars. Jesus is the answer for the world today. Above him there's no other. Jesus is the way. Jesus is the answer for the world today. Above him there's no other. Jesus is the way. You get my drift? He is the answer. Now, when I was going through my divorce between 1999 and 2001, I was like, okay, he's the answer. I get that, okay? He's the answer. But how is he going to supply the answer to where I'm going through so much pain and adversity? The problem was I was still relying on externals. Okay? I was still relying on externals. And the fact of the matter is this. Externals weren't going to get me nowhere. Look at the number of times that I've gotten myself in trouble, depending on externals from friends who were only bringing me down and blocking my progression. June 1997. I placed a phone call to Jim Bob while I was swimming at the Texas Tech Rec Center. I was using my wife's cell phone. Well, evidently, Brad finds out from Jim Bob. You know, Keith always said there are three ways to get something across: telegram, telephone, and tell a Jim Bob. And Jim Bob told Brad, and Jim Bob said, well, Brad said you shouldn't have done that. Okay, back then I was undiagnosed bipolar, and I was angry. And I told Chris, I said, you tell Jim Bob that if he and Brad are going to act like that, we're not coming down in a few weeks. The heck with that. You're going to act like that. And it led to a bunch of reactivity and arguments over some personal issues I was struggling with. And if I'd known then what I know now, I would have grabbed the younger 27-year-old Jimmy by the scruff of the neck and say, hey, Jimmy, wake up. Keith has been trying to talk to you, dang it, for 4 long years. Okay? Keith has been trying to talk to you for 4 long years. Okay, you get my drift? I take my trips down to Dallas. When he moved to Dallas, he would use an occasion to talk about the gospel. Back when I was going through my 9-month depression in 2007, Keith was like, Jimmy, you need to get into a church where you can get some wise counsel. Well, my church had a counselor at that point. And in keeping with the promise with my maternal grandmother that I would stay Baptist, and you've heard this little exchange that I mentioned back in some earlier previous episodes. I decided to get a hold of my minister and premarital counselor, and they referred us to a counselor. The problem was what made me stop seeing her as a counselor was she was advocating divorce for me and my ex-wife. And back then, you know, our business associates had made us promise on our honeymoon that divorce would not be an option. Of course, it did become an option. I didn't want it to be that way. But that was the fruit of the consequences. Of course, we did go visit Brad and Jim Bob and Julie. But there were still consequences for me relying on externals. We don't need to rely on externals anymore, people, okay? We don't need to rely on externals anymore. What we need in this world right now is God's Son. Okay? Jehovah. Some of you that are in the Hebrew persuasion, Messianic, Yeshua, Hamashiach, Jesus Christ. I hope you guys have a blessed weekend. I'll see you Sunday night. God bless and have a blessed weekend. Wishing you all a good night, and I hope you guys have a blessed rest of the week. See you Friday night. Sorry, that was pre-recorded.
I want to hear myself.
Okay. This has been Leah Light, produced by Empower Media. The views and opinions expressed on this podcast are not necessarily the views of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. They are the views of the podcast holder himself. Empower Your Pattern Media. 3525 South County Road 1312. Odessa, Texas 79765. Or email, one word lowercase, empower your pattern at gmail.com. We hope that you enjoyed this podcast of Leona Light. Made available by Google Podcasts, Spreaker, YouTube, iHeartRadio, produced on January 6th, January 17th, 2021.